Hey there, welcome to Author Success Show. The special guest we have today is Ted Hawks. Ted is a writer, book coach, and trainer from Chicago. He's been writing stories since he could read. Focused initially on magic rabbits, his work now centers on dramatic fish. He strives to both write stories that connect with others and help others get their books into the world. Hey Ted, welcome to Author Success Show.
Thanks, Jyotsna. I'm really happy to be here.
It's my pleasure, Ted. I'm just curious to know, you studied finance, right, in school. From there, how did you move on to become a book coach?
Yeah, I actually, I started, my degree was in English, but my first job was in finance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was just sort of an accident of, I graduated during the Great Recession, so I was just looking
Mhm.
for really any job that was available. Moved into like credit application review, but during that same time, got into grad school, and went into grad school for creative writing. So doing both simultaneously, and then have continued to write and do the corporate thing both at the same time as well.
Right. So was writing always your passion? When was the first time you identified that?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. Since I was like 6 years old, I've been a writer. I would write stories, draw pictures. I like to always joke that my first like quote unquote novel was when I was six. I put together something for this like Secret Santa exchange.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, have always written different kinds, from science fiction, fantasy, YA, articles, personal essays. But yeah, have always been a writer.
Right. And at what stage did you realize, Ted, that it's not just these short essays and articles, but you can actually write a full-length novel?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I was always really intimidated by it, but it was always sort of, like the peak of the mountain, the main goal. Like, I always novels always meant so much to me growing up. I grew up in like a small farm town, so it was like my form of escape and adventure. So I was like, I always know I want to be, write a novel and share that.
Hmm.
Um, and I drafted like um novels in college, like so like novellas, and just sort of went through an iterative process. And then once I got into the MFA program at Northwestern, really my goal was to finish a book in that time. So put something
Hmm.
together, craft it, polish it, and have something ready to go. So that was the first moment when I think when I was like super duper serious about it, and all hands on deck and really focused to push through.
Right. So I have seen that there are a lot of writers out there who've written something, it's somewhere hidden inside a book or in their computer, and they do not think that it's good enough to have it published. So, how does one decide if something is worthy of publishing, or should they keep improving on their craft?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Um, as a book coach, I can say that something really valuable is, if you don't have the confidence in it, I really recommend reaching out to others to read the book, and not just sort of anyone, family and friends, because I think that can
Yeah.
get mixed reviews, or
Mm.
people who don't engage with it the way you want to. But I think if you really really are being serious about a writer, have written something, want to share it with the world but aren't sure if it's there yet, I would look at writing communities and local
Mm.
chapters. And in Chicago, we have the Chicago Writers Association, but try to find a community of writers who is really engaged with writing, who will help you, who will support you. You can
Mhm.
always go the professional route as well, getting a professional editor or a book coach to walk you through it. But there are a ton of resources
Yeah.
to help get you up to speed on it. And I highly recommend, even if you think it's ready to publish, getting some outside feedback and
Mhm.
making sure that it's as good as it can be. Yeah.
Sure. I'm sure communities are very powerful. I remember when I wrote my book, I was a part of an author community. And if not for that tribe, I would have never succeeded in finishing my book or even having it published.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, before you even became a book coach, you've written four novels yourself, right? So, how was the process of doing that?
Yeah, so I one of the reasons I came to book coaching, it was after I'd finished my like third book.
Hmm.
And my process for every book was different. You think you think you've got it figured out, and then you sit down and do it again, and you're like, oh, nothing I did last time worked at all. Um, Especially on the fiction side. I think nonfiction, like there's a lot of like rubrics and frameworks, and doing a synopsis that are really
Yeah.
helpful. with fiction, it can get like really wily, really quick as you
Mm.
write stuff. So one of the things I came to is I wanted to support writers in that process, whatever it looks like. There's a famous quote, there's 3 rules to writing a novel. Unfortunately, no one knows them, and I think that's sort of the foundation of my practice. Is
Yeah,
we're just gonna work through it together, figure out your best way of writing, how to get your book out there, and we'll work together to do it. Um, I think that's one of the things I thought I could really share with book coaching is having the experience of doing it several times, and knowing the pitfalls and how difficult it can be to share that with others and help support them through the process.
right. So when you are writing your novel, that idea of supporting others also happened, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I got a job in a consulting environment, and I learned
Mm-hmm.
about like coaching as a craft.
Mm.
That was more sort of leadership coaching and corporate coaching, but I was like, wow, that's really cool to have support for these folks, who need it in that one-on-one counseling. And during the pandemic, I discovered book coaching, and I thought, wow, that this sort of pulls together everything I love to do, in terms of writing, in terms of the coaching, in terms of providing support and community for folks. So
Mm.
it was that sort of like aha moment when I discovered Author Accelerator, where I got
Mm-hmm.
my certification, that I really
Yeah.
figured out what the best path was.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to know a little more about your decision to sign up for a certification program because you already hold a degree in writing. You have been in a consulting environment, so you know how the process of coaching works. What made you go ahead to sign up for a serious program for becoming a book coach?
Yeah, it's really funny, Jyotsna. I saw your talk on imposter syndrome, and that's I just have imposter syndrome like up and down, sideways, left, right. So when I was coming to it, I was like, I don't think I can just like launch myself into this. Like I need some credential or something to back up what I'm doing. And Author
Hmm.
Accelerator was just like this incredible program. It's built by Jenny Nash, a huge community of coaches and writers in it. And not only did it look like a great community to join, but the content and the frameworks that they built out, as I mentioned a little earlier, the fiction writing process can get a little bit more wily and out of
Yeah.
control, and they have some great frameworks like the blueprint, the inside outline, that can really help writers focus and get it together. So it just seemed like a great win-win for me. I get a credential, learn a lot in the process, and also
Hmm.
get to join a group of writers and coaches.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, as you said, when you write as an author, you may not necessarily follow a process, but when you know that there can also be a framework, it just helps you support your clients a lot better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as I said, those those frameworks are flexible, and easy to
Yeah,
adjust, and everyone's process is different. So always work with the writer specifically. Yeah.
yeah. So, what are some of your favorite genres that you like to work on while working with clients as a coach?
Yeah, I love genre fiction. Most of the coaching I do is in the category, and most of what I've done has been, sort of did a coming of age book, have done a thriller and helped someone outline that. And I think those are two of my favorite. I'm sort of a mystery writer currently by trade, so that mystery thriller area is really what I've done to and focused on, and then also the young adult literature too, because that was my first book, and what I also like to help others write too.
Right. So, when clients come to you, Ted, typically do they have like an idea or plot in mind? Or at what stage do they usually reach out to you?
Yeah, it's been really fun. Most of the people who come to me are usually pretty serious about it. And what's been
Hmm.
really wonderful to see is not only do they have an idea, but maybe 10. So sort of first stage of the process is really honing in on, what story do you really want to tell? What's the
Yeah.
why behind it? Why is it so important? Because once again, in the fiction process, you have to have the full manuscript really before you are able to submit to agents or publishers, or of
Hmm.
course, publish online if that's what you'd like to do. So really honing in and figure out what will get them through that process of writing the book, and that why behind it, and then kind of weaning away at any other side products or how we can merge them, put them together, but really focusing on the one that they want to get done, first and foremost.
Right. So, while working with a book coach, what do you think there are certain things that only a coach can help and an author will not be able to do it themselves? Like, what are some
Yeah. Oh,
examples
sorry.
of situations where the coach can, give some kind of clarity or give some kind of direction, which is probably pretty difficult for an author to figure out on their own?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a writer, just getting stuck in the woods, like it's just words and words, and you're just seeing
Mm.
trees and no forest, and you're kind of wondering if it
Yeah.
makes sense, what's the path forward. And that's probably one of the most powerful things that a book coach can offer is perspective. But then, onto that, a lot of folks you can give your book to can give you perspective and maybe say, this doesn't work for me. What's going on here? What's powerful about a book coach is we're like specially trained writers and editors. We know story, we know structure. So not only can we say, this isn't working, but we can say, I think these are the elements that you're missing. I think this is what we need to do. This is what we need to fix. Here are the major problems. Here are the minor ones. Let's break this down. So once again, it's sort of, more of a process, more of a building out rather than, just sort of, this doesn't work, but figure it out and fix it. It will help you every step along the way to make sure it gets tightened up.
Right. So typically, how does the your process that you have, of course, developed while working with your clients, how does it look like? Is it a fixed number of calls, like one call a week or something like that? Or is it pretty flexible depending on what the client needs?
Yeah, it's really flexible. I try to offer, because book coaching, can get expensive really quickly. I
Mm.
try to offer, quick packages, especially on the front end. So like doing a blueprint for your book. I offer a mini blueprint course that's free online.
So a
I do it one.
blueprint, just to get my clarity on this, a blueprint is basically like an outline for a book, right?
Yeah, it's an outline is 100% part of it, but it includes a lot of other stuff that I think is really powerful, especially on the self-publishing side. It's thinking
Mm.
about your ideal reader, your genre,
Mm.
how you see your book in the world. So we really want you to think about all those really important things up front, because it just adds so much clarity and purpose to the work as you write forward. So
Yeah.
you will develop plot, you will make an outline, you'll do pages on the longer outline and do an opening and closing. But yeah, we really want to kind of help you think holistically about the novel as well.
Right. So, what if a client comes to you after writing their novel and it just is not working? Once you read it, you're not able to give any kind of positive feedback. So, how do you deal with such scenarios? There is so
Yeah.
much potential, but maybe that person has not given their best.
Yeah, I actually have built in to my contract sort of a default off. So if I get a book that, the first 50 pages I'm reading it and I'm saying like, I don't know where the character is, I don't know where the story is, I don't know where this is going. I kind of would refund them out for that full edit of the full novel, and sit down with the writer for an hour call and say like, these are
Mm.
these are what I'm seeing that's really powerful. These are what need to be fixed. This is why I stopped where I did. And this is
Mm.
how we can get you up and running if you want to continue this process. So
Right.
yeah, I'm all about, if I'm seeing something that doesn't work from the get-go, like make sure to call it out, meet with the writer. It's a difficult discussion to have.
Hmm.
But it's way more powerful and really impactful to do that up front rather than, wait or pad it in certain ways, to make
Yeah.
someone feel better. Definitely
Yeah.
definitely about the coaching, and helping and nurturing the writer, but also want to be, really clear, and make sure that they know what they need to do.
Sure. I'm sure most authors understand the importance of having an editor, and everybody works with an editor, but not everyone understands the need to have a book coach. So, when I have this conversation with some of my clients, they would tell me that you will anyway give me an editor who will improve my book. Why do I need a coach? So, how would you answer that question?
I think, an editor uh, is just looking at sort of like tactical things you can change. And you will get, feedback, and dialogue on what you need to fix. But the book coaching, is really about the relationship. So when the coach, and the writer get together, they're really, all hands on deck, full steam ahead to get the book done. The editor kind of is looking at as, a one-off project to do, to give
Mhm.
feedback, that will help and shape the book. A book coach over, 1 to 3 sessions, maybe more if it's needed, will help the writer, continue to get through those edits, to say what's working, have an accountability partner, help
Yeah.
them through the process. When you get an editorial letter, it's helpful, but to sit down with someone and actually talk through, what if I
Mm.
did this? What if I did this? How could we shape this? It's a really powerful way. And it also, makes the writing process a lot less lonelier, right? When you have someone to actually bounce
Exactly.
ideas off of, try things with.
Yeah.
So, developmental editing, I would say is, if you're doing a one-off, just an editorial letter, is pretty transactional. When you're looking at a book coach, it's more about the relationship and building that and editing that book together.
Yeah, absolutely. That is very important because an editor can only do so much, but a book coach is more like your buddy who shows you that tough love so that,
Yeah,
they are
exactly.
there for you throughout the process.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
Yeah. So, tell me, Ted, what are your future plans for building your coaching business?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm doing a conference in March for the International Association for Fantastic and the Arts on microtension. I'm, continuing my newsletter. I do a Medium blog where I really kind of showcase what I would do as an editor, as a writer, as a coach. So I do craft tips and then also kind of analyze stories that are prominent in the media to talk through what went well, what could have been fixed. Continuing to do outreach to clients who come in through my website, offering some consultations, and then continue to work on online classes as well, to offer some one-offs for people who may not have enough to invest in a coach, but want
Yeah.
that support to keep going.
Yeah, I'm glad you are looking at doing so many things, but all of them are related to helping the author at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's have had a lot of knowledge, have failed a
Yeah,
lot. So I'm happy to share those experiences and help others kind of get a jump off the starting line for sure.
right. So, what scares a lot of people sometimes when it comes to working with a coach is, oh my God, if this coach is going to be too strict and they want me to submit a particular chapter by this particular deadline, I'm not going to give my creative best because no, people cannot force me to write. That's what some authors
Mm.
believe in. So, what's your take on that? Like, of course, as a coach, you need to support your clients in helping them stay accountable. But does having deadlines reduce a person's creativity?
Oh, I would actually say I think people think that up front, but when they're forced into the framework where they have to deliver pages, once a month or twice a month, whatever it is, um, I think they might find that their creativity actually kind of explodes a little bit because
Mm,
when you limit, then you have people the opportunity where they just need to get it done and will maybe go places that they haven't done before. Um,
yeah.
to one of the points sort of tacit in this question, I think something really important to do is if you're looking at a book coach is actually, ask them for a 10-15 minute conversation to talk through their process, how they work with writers. Because, every book coach might not be a good match for every writer. So
Yeah.
sit down with them, make sure, if you need flexibility on timelines, see what the book coach has in mind, see what that
Mm,
relationship will look like, and make sure you're on the same page before you start anything. That way it doesn't get, too crazy too quickly.
yeah, so true. And a lot of authors may have other roles to play, like a mom or a teacher or there's some other day job. So they'll have multiple things to manage at the same time. So one thing that would come up as a common excuse is the lack of time. So what are some of the things that you tell your clients, like some writing habits or some tips, so that they stay on track and do not get distracted in their day-to-day lives?
Oh yeah, that's an amazing question, and that's once again another big upside working with a coach rather than just an editor, is to
Yeah.
walk through this process. Um, I just recently read the book Atomic Habits,
Yeah.
and there are just so many awesome ways to help refine how you think, to create an environment to help you write, to
Mm,
remove distractions. So really, what I would sit down with a writer and say, like when is your favorite time to write? Is it morning, evening? When are you the most creative? Two, what's distracting you from writing? Like with parents and or really crazy jobs, it can be a lot of factors. So like, what are these limiting factors? And then look at how to design an environment. I recently have really struggled. Writing in the morning is my favorite time of day, but I just, with the short days, I just sleep all the time. So I've just, through reading Atomic Habits and like practicing stuff and trying to update my environment, what I do is my phone cannot be touched until 9
right.
a.m. So I just can't look at it. Whatever time I have, I need to focus on writing. So yeah, I think that's a really crucial thing, is to just kind of, give yourself flexibility and grace, find out what works for you.
Mm,
And then really, analyze where your distractions are and then see how you can circumvent that. Or,
mm,
ways that you can kind of maybe even just set a timer for 30 minutes, sit down, grind it out, do that
Yeah.
once a day, and then see if you can expand that time, see if that time could be, better at some other time of day. So
Yeah.
a million possibilities, and a lot of articles out there too, if you're having trouble with writing block or saving time.
Yeah, I love whatever you just mentioned, Ted, because no two authors are the same. Our lifestyles are different. Our challenges are different. So just because I can wake up at 5 a.m. and write, it doesn't mean it should work for another author.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone's kind of different. Um,
Mm,
my partner works really hard at night, and I work really hard in the morning, and we just sort of have just two different styles all
right.
the time. So, yeah, so it's really important to know who you are, and give grace to that and honor that, and then kind of go from
Mm,
there and figure out the best way forward.
absolutely. So tell us, Ted, where can people find out more about you? And if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You can always find me on my website, www.tedhawks.com. There's
Mhm.
information on my coaching and writing and links to my blog. The best way to get in contact with me is just to email me at bookcoachted@gmail.com. And if you go to my site, I actually, as I build my book of business, I'm doing consultations in the new year. So I have 30 minutes. We can sit down and talk about your project, and just see where you're at, where you need help,
Yeah.
and how I can assist, whether that's through a coaching relationship or just some articles and some knowledge sharing. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. We'll have all the links that you mentioned right below in the show notes. Thank you once again, Ted, for coming on Author Success Show.
Oh, thank you, Jyotsna. It's been such an honor. Really appreciate the time.